I feel like one quality that pretty distinctly sets the hero apart from the villain is their positive relationships with other people, which makes sense because villains are usually evil and have issues, so having good, supportive friendships isn't really their strong suit. But personally, I find it really compelling when this dynamic is subverted. Heroes usually care a lot about the people close to them, often willing to sacrifice themselves for their friends and able to push through when their friend is counting on them. It's not uncommon for protagonists to be loners either, especially in darker stories with anti-heroes, but it's much harder to find villains having those strong, motivating relationships. Sometimes, especially in children's media, the hero is able to reform the bad guy by offering them the human connection that they were lacking, which probably drove them to evil in the first place. Other times the villain views such relationships as weakness, and their downfall is underestimating the power of friendship that gives the hero their motivation. But what if neither of these things are true? What if the antagonist has their own friend or group of friends who they are fighting for? When I tried to think of examples for this, I came up with surprisingly few. My criteria for this was 1. They have to be genuine mutual friendships where the participants actually care about each other. 2. They have to be real villains, not anti-heroes or ambiguous third parties. They don't have to be the main antagonist, but they do have to be opposed to the protagonist, and they have to have friends actively while they're the villain, not like in their tragic backstory. I also tried to avoid romantic relationships involving the villain unless it's based in friendship, because there's a lot of that, and it's not really what I'm looking for. And lastly, I don't mean evil organizations or alliances with no substantial connections between the members. I am aware the villains come in groups or have subordinates, that's not uncommon, but they tend to not really care about each other. With all that in mind, here are the examples I could think of. Number 1, there's Zuko, Mei, Ty Lee, and Azula from Avatar. Most of this group does get redeemed decently before the end of the show, but they're very much positioned as the antagonists and do evil things, and they get a good amount of friendship development too, and seem to actually care about each other, so they check all the boxes. She-Ra is another great example. For one, there's Rogelio, Lonnie, and Kyle working for the villains, who are all good friends, but they also never directly confront the protagonist and aren't really evil. But another good example from She-Ra is Scorpia, Entrapped, and Catra, who are the main antagonists. It's actually a lot like Avatar, where 2 of the friends genuinely love the other 2, while one of them is more manipulative and acts based on her own self-interests or to please their evil superior/parent figures. But Catra does personally connect with her teammates, especially Scorpia. Attack on Titan, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't watched it because it's one of my favorite shows, especially because of the plot twist and the way it reveals information, but it's got multiple examples of villains who are friends and care about each other and are willing to risk their lives for each other. The Michelsons from the Vampire Diaries. Maybe not the best example, but they do seem to care about each other to varying degrees and act like siblings at times. Also Wanda and Pietro in Age of Ultron, I guess, even though they didn't get much screen time and obviously get redeemed. There's the trio in Buffy, which I don't know if they really count as genuine friends. They sort of are at first, they're just gross, like they're high school incel buddies. I might also throw in Faith and the Mayor, they seem to genuinely care about each other. Arcane is kind of similar, with Jinx and Silco having a father-daughter relationship, but it's not really a friendship dynamic as much as siblings are. There are probably some Sailor Moon villains that fall into this category. You can interpret some of their relationships as genuine caring. And I'm also going to include Wilson Fisk and this art curator lady from Daredevil, even though this is a romantic relationship, because it's very unique and well done. It's the only example where it's not even a friendship among villains, he just gets a girlfriend. No ulterior motives, completely uninvolved in the plot, he just starts dating her because he likes her, and not even in a super creepy way. I forgot Fisk was also close to this guy and cried at his death, so he can count too. And that's kind of it. I mean, I'm sure I'm forgetting some, and there are also a few more I'm peripherally aware of that might fit the bill, but there really weren't that many I could easily think of. Except there is one more, which is the reason I made this video, really just so I could gush about them, and that example is the Phantom Troop from Hunter x Hunter, which I consider to be the epitome of this trope. For anyone who hasn't seen Hunter x Hunter, the Phantom Troop, or the Spiders, are the main antagonists of the 3rd season. They're a gang of 13 incredibly powerful criminals that one of the protagonists, Kurapika, has a vendetta against for murdering his entire clan 4 years ago. And they're basically exactly what I'm looking for. It's a group of real villains who are real friends. Unlike most other examples, we actually see the members of the troupe do horrible things with little hesitation. They're not just teenagers following orders from some higher authority, they're adults with their own ambitions, and although some are explored more than others, they all have their own unique personalities and moral codes. They're all thieves, liars, and murderers, but they also have these unbreakable bonds, and they would never betray each other. And we see a lot of little details about their relationships, like you see them play cards, kiss each other on the cheek, poke fun at each other. We see one of them sacrifice their life for the other, and we see them cry over their friends' deaths, get angry and grieve and pay tribute. The Phantom Troop doesn't find peace in the story by siding with the hero, but by being there for each other. 2 of them die, but they're not even defeated by the end of the season, and they don't get redeemed either. Why I adore this group of villains is that they are really horrible people who are clearly the villains of the story, but they experience human emotions and relationships. And the main character, Gon, simply cannot understand this, mainly because he's a child with his own black and white view of morality. In his first interaction with the spiders, one of them starts crying over their friend who recently died, and Gon gets really angry because he sees that they're capable of empathy, but they've killed so many people and he can't understand why they didn't feel sympathy for their victims. And it's a really complex and interesting thing, and I feel like Gon's inability to grapple with this complexity mirrors the audience. And it's hard on the writer's end to do this well. It's hard to give villains real friendships because that implies goodness, essentially, the capacity for selfless love. It makes them sympathetic and likable, and it's hard to know what to do with a villain like that. You can't have the villain win, so I guess it's either redemption or a bittersweet ending. Most of the villains I gave examples of do get redeemed, or they're not given a lot of attention, don't really care about each other, consist of only minor characters, or they're kids who are manipulated into pursuing the evil goals of someone else. Having friendships is usually reserved for the heroes because, like Gon's frustration, it's difficult to understand how a person can do bad things when they love and are loved, even though that happens everywhere in the real world. And as I said, although I want to see this more, I get that it's challenging to write a villain with positive relationships while maintaining their motives and not justifying their actions or redeeming them, which is why I respect when it's done well.